Hi, all. Welcome back. This is Dino the Ops Guy, episode 8 of our production management and practice, sort of our Stardew Valley production management course. If you haven't checked this out, this is episode 8. There's 7 episodes you can check beforehand. We're going to start off with actually a quiz that we had done in the previous episode. Um, so the three questions, all true and false. The plant would be more productive if Dino, the manager, just ran the plant and left Av, production staff, out of the decisions. I hear this all the time. Second one, Av is responsible for completing all of the objectives that Dino sets each day. Well, Av is the production manager, and Dino sets up production objectives. It would stand to reason, you would think. These aren't answers, I'm just sort of laying it up. And you can get a better return from converting one of each daffodil to the spring seeds, and then selling them and planting them as parsnips instead of just planting them. So let's get into the answers, the true or false answers. So the first one, the plant would be more productive if Dino, the manager, just ran the plant and left Av, production staff, out of the decisions. This is false. And this really comes back to there's a management bias that management typically feels, and I can speak as, I've been in management, I've been in production, I've been on both sides of this, but management tends to think because they get paid more, because they have more experience, more tenure, because they have more authority, because go on that they've been promoted from previous positions on the floor, that they have make better decisions, and it's just not necessarily true. You should get the best person. So, for example, the decision that Av makes and the decision that Dina makes are completely independent. It's like I said about the 5 p.m. decision and the 2 a.m. decision. If it's 2 a.m. and you're coming out of the bar, there's really no good decisions unless before that you or somebody made a good 5 p.m. decision to give you more options. So even though Dino and Av are the same person in this case, each of us, Dino and Av, currently makes decisions that are regrettable. That's just part of the job. We're human. We're going to make decisions that we're going to look back on and say, well, I could have done that better. But that doesn't mean that Dino should look at Av's decisions and say, I could have done that better, so you're out. Everyone has to make the same decision, and we can't sort of feed that management bias. It's unsupported. So really what you want to do is find the most capable person to do Av's role, find the most capable person to do Dino's role, and then each of them focus on each role and not really point fingers at each other as much as just work with each other as best they can. So the answer to this one is false. Dino cannot do a better job than Av. And the fact that I am Dino and I am Av and telling you this should be like exhibit A. But okay, so second one. Av is responsible for completing all the objectives that Dino sets out each day, and this one's false as well. This comes back to what we said about communication being two-way, a dyadic thing. So Dino putting the one-way communication out there does not basically make Av follow that. There is an obligation by Av to respond to that. Again, it's a two-way thing. To respond and say, here's what I can do. Here's what we can hope to get out of this. Here's how I would approach that. And then Av is responsible for closing on that. But if there's even a gap between that and what Dino's expecting, it's still on Dino to close that gap and say, Av, can you get me more? Or can I get something out of maintenance? Can I get something out of, whatever it is, sanitation, the sweepers, sales, whatever the case. It's up to Dino to make sure that everyone has fed back how they can contribute, and those contributions cover everything that Dino needs. And then it's up to those people to finish on those contributions. But Dino sending out, this is what we hope to accomplish, does not obligate others to do so necessarily. And if you think it does, you can crack the whip or whatever you want. It's never going to be what you had hoped for. So the answer to that one is also false. The third one is a little more well, it's actually not a lot more complicated at all. When I did the numbers, I think it was day 2 for this, I actually went back and did them again. I found some of the numbers were wrong, but it really comes out to about the same thing. And this goes back to some of the things when I was teaching in university. Operations classes were usually run the same time early on in the MBA program as accounting classes, and I found that they always messed me up. If we started together, so we both started in September, it worked out really well. If accounting took the majority of the courses early, couple 3 weeks, and then ops came in, I found it was a lot worse, only because in academia, especially in a place like university, especially a place like accounting, they come up with cooked examples to say, this is what happened, this is what happened. You tell me what the calculation should be and what the answer is. And the answer always works out exactly as they want. In an operations class, it never works out exactly as the way you want. I will have a scenario that I give them, and people will say, well, Dino, it's going to be different if we run 5 days a week or if we run 7 days a week. And I say, I know. And I say, run the numbers for 5, run the numbers for 7, come prepared with both of them, and tell me what you think, because it's not a cut and dry calculation. So as long as when you do it, you're going to cut corners, you get essentially the right number, and you know what corners you cut, and you're going to come back and fix it if you find something else. But operations is not one of those mathematically exact sciences, even though math is a big part of it. And the numbers that you really need to run, like production and capacity numbers, you want to have a fine pencil for. But for the most part, when we're doing these estimates, it's never going to be perfect, and we got to live with that. But nonetheless, we have enough information in this situation to do it upright. So if we're going to take a dandelion, a daffodil, a leek, and a wild horseradish and put them together, the most we can get from these, if they're all gold, is, which is the highest. I mean, you can get iridium. There's a different later in the game deal. Early in the game, the most you can get for a bundle of 4 of them, all gold, is going to be 180. When we convert them, we're going to get essentially 35 a pack for 10 packs, a value of 350. Well worth doing. Always lucrative. Do it every single time. However, if you're planting the seeds, you think, well, we only paid 180 for them at most, so we should get a good return on them. At this point, they're not worth 180 anymore. They have the value of 350. It's one of those mark to market kind of situations that now we know it's worth more. So we have to make the decision based on the fact that it's still worth more. So if we go through, and again, from episode 2, I have what it turned out to be, and it was well worth it to not plant the spring. Let's run the numbers again. So we, as we said, we combine them, we do a lot better. And then you can occupy 10 spots if you plant them. None of, there's, you can get 2 bundles out of the 10, or 1 bundle out of the 10, but really the results are not good. So here we go. The best scenario is that of the 10 that you plant, there are 4 that match a set, make up a set, and there's another 4 that make up a set, and then of course naturally there's an extra 2 of the 10 that don't seem to match anything. And what you're going to do is take the weakest, so let's say the weakest 2 leek, the weakest 2 dandelion, the weakest 2 daffodil, and the weakest 2 cauliflower, horseradish, wild horseradish. Combine them together, and we're going to get 700 for that, or 2 sets for that. And then the other 2, if they haven't made gold, then we're going to get a little more money than if we had used the regular one. So there's some optimization we can do, but we're going to end up at least getting 700 for those 2 packs, right? There's another situation that maybe there's not 2 full sets. Maybe there's 1 full set and 6 other non-matched, up type. Again, take the basest ones you can to make the set, and then you get money for the rest. Last possibility is there's going to be no matches at all, in which case you're just going to sell them for value. So if we're looking at to plant them, I want to know what are the probability that I'm going to get 2 sets, 1 set. When I ran this before, I couldn't find my numbers from before, so I basically ran it again. I have more confidence in this one. I went through it a couple of times, but really, this is a combinatorial calculation that we wouldn't normally get into in a class, but I do sort of want to give you some highlights to different approaches that can be taken, even if you're not comfortable taking. What I really did was I said, I'm going to code this to be a daffodil as a 2, a dandelion as a 3, leek is a 5 and a wild horseradish is a 7, or any combination. I don't care which one you have of those. But we have 4 distinct items. And if I look at, if I'm planting 2 of these, what are the possibilities for all, for both, if you will? Well, I can either have 2 daffodil, or a daffodil and a dandelion, or a daffodil, etc., etc., etc. And in the number terms I'm looking at, I could either have 2 times 2, because I'm going to multiply them together, or 2 times 3, or 2 times 5, or 2 times 7. Or 3 times 2, or 3 times 5, 3, or 3 times 5, or 3 times 7. So I will have 16 products of respectively 2, 3, 5, 7 times 2, 3, 5, 7. Some of them will be duplicates, and that's fine. But those represent all the possibilities of what can be planted as coded in basically 2 plots. Well, I do this and extend it, so I've actually multiplied them together in 10 dimensions, if you will, but it's all in 1 dimension kind of thing. I bring them all to a line. When I do that, I can say, well, anything that has 1 set in it is divisible by 1 daffodil, 1 dandelion, 1 leek, and 1 wild horseradish would be 2 times 3 times 5 times 7. Or if it's divisible by 210, then I know that answer of the million possible outcomes actually will give me at least 1 set. If I divide it through evenly for 44,100, which is 210 squared, then I know I get 2 sets. So this way I can say of all the million, it's actually 1,048,576 combinations, only 286 unique. Of those, roughly 5% will make 2 sets. I think I said 25% before. And then an additional 14% or 20% overall kind of thing will make at least 1 set. So now we carry that on. So in the past, I've compared base value, and I've always been comfortable comparing base value. By the way, I don't know what happened on the last slide with the need to. So that would work typically because if I'm planting horseradish, let's say, let's forget horseradish. I'm planting parsnips and I'm planting cauliflower. If I'm getting a gold, then it's just 1.5 times whichever one it is. So I really don't have to set that apart because it's going to be essentially the same bump for everything. However, we cannot say that with spring seeds because once you build a group, you actually can pick and choose to make sure that you keep the best ones aside for individual sale. So I wanted to represent that as well. So my outcome here is we have the probabilities I was talking about. There's a 5% chance we get 2 sets, an additional 14% chance we get 1 set, but not 2. And then 80% is the balance for all the ones where we're not going to get 1 set or 2 set. With the 2 sets, we know we're going to get 350 twice, or 700. So the sets value is going to be 700. For the 1 set, we're going to get 350. For the last category, we're not going to get any sets. However, in the first set, first scenario where we get 2 sets, there's going to be 2 extra products. If they're the cheapest products, then it's going to be daffodils. If it's the most expensive products, it's going to be leeks. Their base prices are 30 and 60 respectively. So if we have 2 of them, the least amount those extra 2 can be is 60 on a base level. The most it can be 120 on a base level. Going down to the second scenario, if we have 1, there's 6 left over. If there were 6 daffodils, the cheapest would be 180. If there are 6 leek, the most expensive would be 360. And so forth to 300 and 600. Now, if we have 300 and 600, then it's the same as whether we're doing parsnips or whatever. A gold is a gold, an iron is an iron, or whatever the case. Maybe it's supposed to be silver, I don't know. So I said we're about level 5 farming. So at level 4, level 5 farming, you can expect essentially a 15% chance of getting the equivalent of a gold bump. I also made it binomial from the standpoint I did not want to do base iron and gold. I just said I'm going to do base and gold, and we're going to assume that if you have an iron, it's somewhere between those 2 values. It'll make the stats a lot easier. So the net effect here is If it's just regular, I'm going to say there's a 15% chance it's going to be gold and an 85% chance it's going to be not gold. And that's going to be a 1.05 multiplier. You can see it on the bottom where we have no sets made. If we make one set, statistically, that'll actually go up to 1125 because you can group them favorably. Once you have two sets, you can pick the cream of the crop for the last two for the most part. So I'm using a much higher bump of 1.315 to say you're going to get a better combination for the two of them to be closer to gold. When I multiply each of those lines through, scenario one gives me essentially 818G that I can return. Second scenario gives me essentially 654G. The third one, 854, is 484G. So when we blend those averages, 5% times the first, 14% times the second, etc., we end up with 525 or 526. We invested 350, not the equivalent of 180 or whatever we thought we had before. It is 350 because we could have sold those seeds for 350 for a net gain of 175.8 or 176, call it, which works out to, as we kind of said before, 2.51 gold or G per plot per day. And that's actually appreciating that there's an advantage here that you will get more gold per, sort of on average than you would the base just because of the grouping and that sort of stuff. So it's not going to be exactly the number we had before, but it's still a good number that we can compare if we do a not-based comparison. And we are going to do a not-based comparison. We'll do it first with parsnips. So parsnips, if we had the same 350 that we had by selling those seeds, and we plant 10 parsnips because we don't want to use more watering, we don't want to complicate it that way, we'd have $150 left, or 150G left. So we're planting 10 the same way we'd plant 10 of the spring seeds. We'd end up with 350 base. I'm going to multiply that 350 by the same multiplier, 1.075, to say there's a gold premium that I'm approximating here. It's going to give us 376. Our initial cost is 200. We subtract those, we get 176. And instead of a 2.51 gold per plot per day, we're going to get a 441 because it's fewer days and because it's, even a little bit more money. Now, maybe parsnips are the wrong example. I'm going to actually take a worse example. Blue Jazz is not the best return on the money, but I'll even compare it to Blue Jazz. And the reason I'm doing that is because instead of, cheap at 20, Blue Jazz is 30, which is close to the 35 that you'd get for the spring seeds. It's also 7 days, the exact number of days you'd get for the spring seeds. So it's an apt comparison on that level. And if we spent for 10 plots, we'd still have 50G left. So we're spent 300 instead of the 350. When we get the base value of what we harvest, it's going to be 500. Quality factor 1.075. We're going to get 537. So after we've taken the 300 out, we're still not getting quite the 4.4 plot per day because it's a longer growth cycle, but we're still doing much better than we would if we did the spring seed. And what's even more damning here, even if I look at I spent 350 or didn't get 350 by planting spring seeds, and I'm going to get 175.8 or 176. Well, I'm going to get the same 176 if I just plant 10 parsnips. And in that case, I've only spent 200G, so I have 150G to play with on top of that. And it only took me 4 days, so it's much more flexible. It is clear that you do not want to plant these unless it's like the first or second day, and we'll get to that. If it's the first or second day, and you get the advantage of putting them together, by putting them in the ground, you kind of put in some insurance that if you can't find, let's say it's a leek or a dandelion, if you can't find that later in the game before you get the community center open, because you can't open the community center right away, at least when they grow up, you're getting money for them. You're not just leaving it in your inventory to rot or to not make money. And you've backstopped your risk from the standpoint that if you can't find those forage items in the next few days, at least you know you have them in the garden growing, most likely. So those are the answer. Again, going back, no, it's oh sorry, it's true that you do want to sell your spring seeds and buy any other plant and just put it in the ground. So we have gone through the beginning. Let's set up what we want Av to do. First off, Av, we want to harvest crops. We're going to see parsnips 1155 or whatever that's for base level. We can multiply that by 1.075, but whatever it is, it is. We want to go see the wizard, very important. To get the translation for the community center, then go to the community center, put in the 4 items that will open up that first or finish that first bundle, and then it'll open up 2 other sets of bundles. We want to get the backpack upgrade from Pierre's. That's going to cost us 200G. We still have enough money to do that and still have enough for the festival. So we're going to be good. If the day is lucky, we'll know that on the TV. Or if it's unlucky, we're going to make a decision. If it's lucky, we want to do what we can to mine copper and kill bugs so that we can get more copper and get closer to that weapon that's a lot better, the bug head or whatever it's called. If it's not lucky, well, it's still nice to go to the mine, but let's first see if we can get some wood around because on lucky days, we're going to do much faster going down the mine. The floors go by a lot faster. So we may want to save the mining for when we have lucky days and just spend more time getting resources when it's not as lucky. If we have free time, we might as well finish off all the other bundles that we can. For example, once we get the spring foraging bundle done, then the pantry will open up and we can start putting some of our vegetables in the spring crops bundle as well. The fish one, the fish tank opens up and we can put some stuff there. Also, if we have time, while we're on the mine, we may want to look at fishing carp, fishing bullhead, fishing largemouth bass, all things we need for bundles. If it's after 6 p.m. and we're near Cinder Forest, then we can look at fishing. Well, bream is after 6 p.m. Sunfish is all during the day. So those will give us some things. If we're in the mine and we get to, let's say, level 10 or level 15, like another 5, and we don't think we're going to have the chance to get an additional 5, it might be worth just going up and fishing for a while. So we're laying out the objectives. Av, you definitely want to do the wizard. You definitely want to do the community center stuff. You definitely want to get the backpack by harvesting and getting your money out of that. The rest, I'm just sort of giving you some ideas and saying, here's what will help us in the direction we're going strategically. You got to make the best decisions. And Av, it is now over to you. Okay, thanks, Dino. We're back. It's day 8. It's going to be a beautiful, sunny day tomorrow, apparently. And the spirits are very happy, so it's a good day for mining. We'll try and get some mining in. That's awesome. That on if you haven't picked it up on lucky days, you can find stairs. Oh, we got to go see the wizard. You can find stairs easier in the mine, so that's a nice thing to do because you can get more levels. If you don't need levels, then it's less important. There's still some benefits, but there's also benefits of fishing or whatever. But I find on lucky days, the biggest benefit you can sort of return is to get every set of 5 floors in the mine so that you can use the elevator again and find new things. So whether it's iron ore or gold ore or fire crystal, whatever the case that you need this lower down. So we got some parsnips. That's good. We're going to cash those in. Um, give everything a good water. We are watching sort of patterns in this watering set. We actually had where we watered the same plot twice. And I don't mean we watered it right and then we watered it wrong. I'm saying we watered it right and then we watered it wrong and then we watered it wrong again. So there's some. The other thing I'm noticing in this, like just that time, every once in a while I'll hit it once, but I'll hit it long enough that it actually, I don't know if it just triggers twice so that I get 2 on the same. Um, so yeah, the double watering or the mistaken watering, a little more difficult to solve than I had originally thought, but we're keeping an eye on it. Certainly, it helps us as long as energy is the bottleneck. If we find that energy is not the bottleneck, and let's say time of day is the bottleneck, then what we might do is actually find ways to water faster, even at the expense of energy. But right now, energy is the key thing, so we're going to focus on that. Hey, now. We do have to stop and see the wizard. We're off to see, that sort of thing. And the whole deal there, if you're not familiar with it, is once we've sort of triggered the community center, we go into the community center, we read the gobbledygook, and we go see the wizard because he says, "Oh, that gobbledygook is not because of rats. It's because of something else completely different." So we go see the wizard, and he somehow imbues us the power to read that gobbledygook, which somehow makes all the bundles relevant. So that's what we have to do. Kind of a big priority, not because it's a big thing, but it's one of the first steps that we need to get to the bundles, which are key to our strategy. So that's sort of big thing. Okay, we're going to speed this up. So a lot of this is going to be walking, so I just figured we can get through it a bit faster. Not a lot of learning. I mean, okay, there's a forage item. We're going to pick it up. Good thing. We're making our way to the wizard. We're going to stop in the wizard. There's going to be a cutscene that we're going to skip through, and then we're going to talk to the wizard because if we don't talk to them, even though we've worked with them, we haven't really talked to him on the people friends thing. If I'm going by somebody, I think it's well worth talking to them if it's easy to get to them. Oh, I probably shouldn't have picked up that fiber. It'll be too much until we get our extra backpack. But if I just see someone that's worth talking to them, why not? So no spring onions today. We got a couple forage items. Let's check the corners to make sure. Nope, nothing on that corner. For the waterfall, nothing on that corner. So we'll head up. We're gonna dump off our stuff at the farm. Anything we don't need. See there. Hi, Jess. Just want to say hi. And make our way first to the community center again to start the sequence of opening everything up. We're going to need to have one of each of the forage items for that. So we're going to make some room and we're going to drop those off, and that's going to get the whole bundle thing started. At first, it'll be one set of bundles open, and then once we do the first bundle, oh yeah, we don't have room for that, but we'll come back for that. Once we have the first set of bundles open, then we can do better. We're going to say hi to Harvey. Hi, Harvey. And off we go. And then it's just a matter of getting all the stuff. Now, there it is. I always wonder if I should do anything fancy with the order. I just follow what they do for the first one. Thereafter, you hardly ever have the stuff in the right order, so you just put it in as quickly as you got. But the order that they use in Stardew is not alphabetical, so I always wonder if there was some sort of magic to it. So now that we have the first bundle, we open up the second and third, so essentially the pantry and the fish tank become available. So knowing that we had brought some stuff, Clint wants some copper ores. I think we can do that. We will say hi to Leia and explain, oh, wow, that was a basketball move, pick and roll. I went to follow Caroline, and somehow Leia kind of picked it so that I couldn't get to her without going around Leia. It's kind of neat. Maybe they play basketball together. It's tough to say. So we will get back to the farm, and I think we're still going to do one more run around. First, get that item, yeah, get the leak, and then we'll get the other stuff that we need to take. Now, given that we've already spent the 2,000 on the backpack, we have more space. We can actually look at, well, what can we buy? If we buy parsnips, it's still a good deal, but we won't be able to plant them and harvest them in time for the egg festival. So, well, we'll harvest them on the day of the egg festival. We can't convert that to cash. So it really doesn't matter at this point. Timing wise, it's just a pure dollar play. Given that we've saturated all of our plots, we're between 1 and 120. That's kind of where we want to be. We can add one or two more, even cross 120, but we don't want to go so far that it takes up all of our day watering. So from that standpoint, we're going to invest in a couple cauliflower, just so we know preserves are coming. We only have 3 or 4 cauliflower in the ground, so that'll help us with the preserves. So we can really accelerate that money. And then once we get back to the farm, we're going to slow things down because we have more decisions to make. Okay, let's plant that cauliflower. Now we want to plant them in basically so that we can get the benefit of groups of 9. So we bought 15. It had to be a multiple of 3, which will give us 5 rows of 3, which essentially gives us 3 possibilities of groups of 9 kind of thing. When you're planting the big stuff like cauliflower, melon, pumpkin, it's a good idea to do that. We're also doing it early enough that we're going to be able to use that before the end of the season. It's not sort of a last minute. Like I said, we do have 3 or 4 already in the ground. So we will be able to use some certainly once we start getting the preserve jars. We're gonna take the seaweed. We're pretty. You know what? We're so low on energy. Let's start working on field snacks because I don't think the seaweeds are gonna do it. Especially if we're trying to get 6 copper. We'd like to have a fighting chance at those. So we'll chew up some of our time. This tree is in the way anyway, so we'll knock that down. Hopefully we can get an acorn from there. We go. There's an acorn. So that helps us from the standpoint that now we have the makings of field snacks. We'll probably want to get a few more. One probably isn't enough. So just us clearing up the wood as well along the way. See if we can get more acorns here. It looks like we are okay for maple seeds, but acorns and pine cones are in shorter supply. So we'll want to stack up a bit on this. Oh, another acorn. At first I thought that was a maple. It's hard for me to tell maple from acorn when they're in the ground. So I mean, there's a subtle way, like the one over there looks like a maple, but I don't. Those two I find are close enough that I constantly get them mixed up. But we'll see. There ain't always right, maple. So let's do what we can to build up. Getting wood, of course, isn't bad. There's the 300 wood that we're going to need for a coop. There's other things, wood, like if we want to do chests, if we want to do more scarecrows, wood tends to be pretty valuable. When we start talking about inventory, ABC type stuff, wood is definitely one of those A type category inventory items that we want readily accessible. We want to make sure that we get the amount that we want on a regular basis. So we will get to that. ABC is a different part, sort of inventory management, just categorizing your inventory so that you have a good handle on it. Okay, we're going to try and get some pine cones here. Pine cones and acorns are going to be the things that we want to get. Tell me what you want, what you really, really want. Oh, rice shoots. Five rice shoots. That's awesome. So rice shoots, they basically irrigate themselves if they're near water, which is wonderful. I don't have to water them. That takes up energy and time that is fairly valuable otherwise. So we'll have to plant them near the water. The only thing is, if they're near the water, sometimes they're not within the range of a scarecrow. That doesn't bother me. If a scarecrow gets it, if a crow gets it, that's not going to be the end of the world. I can start to live with that. So. Okay, we're getting, we now have 2. We have another acorn. We have another maple seed. We, I think it's probably just time that we start planting our, it's getting late. Probably just go plant our rice shoots. We'll try and plant them close to this scarecrow, but again, we want them around the water, and we don't necessarily want to use that north end of that lake, sort of that north shore of the lake, just from the standpoint it tends to be trafficy, especially if we get into crab pots. That's usually where we put our crab pots, so I like to use sort of the west and south sides first. East is a little hard to get to, and again, north is pretty trafficy. So all right, we'll clear those up. We don't need the wood. It's time to do one last trek over to the community center and the mines. Or did we? Yeah, I think we still have. So I didn't realize that we had 2 mussels. We might as well put one in the shipping container and then the clam. That's going to be good for us. And that's probably good. We're off on our way. Now, if we get another bundle, the next thing that opens up is the furnace room, which gives us the opportunity for mine cards. That's very, very valuable. I don't usually follow this cutscene just from the standpoint that I never use garbage cans. Maybe there's a lot of value in hitting garbage cans, but and if you're in a pinch, I could see doing it from the standpoint if you can't get a specific item for a bundle any other way. But I've never really been in a situation where I need to rely on garbage cans, so I just try and avoid them where I can. We are going to put what we can. So there's just going to be a conkle and a crab left in that bundle that we're going to, hopefully we'll find a crab in the mine. That's usually the harder one. Conkles we can find along the shore when we do look either in the tide pools or by the ocean. And we will make our way up. And from there, we are going to go into the mine looking for copper for ourselves. And Clint has now given us a quest. So if we can get copper, Clint's going to take a look at it and give us money for taking a look at it. That's awesome. We can do that. We do, I think I mentioned this before. We have a sword which is low damage. We want to use the big club or the wood club or whatever. The problem with the wood club in general is if you swing at something, even if you don't intend to swing at something, it takes a long time to recharge. So in regular walking around the city, I'd rather not have the club, but not that I'm swinging at things, but again, depending on what gets selected, you never know. But the nice thing about the club is it only takes a couple hits. There you go for those slime, rather than 5 or 6 or whatever it is for the sword. And we got a cherry bomb and a geode from the digger. That's awesome. Get some more copper. We need 6. We got 4. That's a good start. We probably could use a little more light on this, but yeah, I know what I'm doing. I've been in the dark before. There's one cave level which is all dark, and even that I've gotten used to moving around. So we got our 6. The next time we see Clint, whether today or tomorrow, he can give us money, so we'll have to make sure that's a big thing tomorrow. We got some new ideas to sleep on. That's good. It is getting late, but at the end of this run here, there is copper, and that is a good thing. Oh, that's got to be a crab. Yeah, if you see a rock on the middle of the tracks, typically it's a crab. And we got one more of those flying beasties. We're gonna cash in on that coal, hit the flying beastie, go up, and then see what's there. But we're gonna get out. Oh, there's some copper. Oh, somehow we switched. All right, let's not do that again. Chop that copper. We're really low on energy. Let's just get out of here rather than lose too much more energy. We will be able to fit everything on the way home. That's awesome. So now that we have the 24 pack, mining is going to be a lot easier. Forging is going to be a lot easier. So it's a really nice benefit to have. It's as early as you can get it, the better. And again, that comes back to as much as our main energy constraint is energy, we've known that hours in the day, and space on our inventory has also sort of been constrictive, so or restrictive, whatever the case. Oh, we got some wild horseradish. So opening that up makes a big difference, and it's a big part of sort of how you plan, how you move forward. I'm quite happy that we got the 24. So we're just going to put everything away. We did a good haul. We even got some extra energy, which is nice. We can carry that over to tomorrow. The energy field snack there and the kelp. We should have left the bomb back at the. Oh well. Usually I like to leave the bomb back at the mine. We don't have use for it in town really. So, but sometimes I forget. Might as well load another copper before we're done. So we got 4. Oh, we just need one more if we want to do an upgrade on the tools. And otherwise, if we want to do our things. So we got level 1 mining. That's cool. Or was that combat? I didn't see it. I didn't see it long enough. So we can always double check that. And coming up for the next day, we have, drum roll please. It's going to rain. Awesome. We'll need to know that. All right, Av, that looks great. We did harvest. Wonderful. We went to see the wizard. We're off to see the wizard. That's an old show. Maybe some of you don't even know that show with the Wizard of Oz. We went to the community center and we finished the foraging bundle, and that gave us the seeds. And then we used that money to get the backpack. It is so nice to get that backpack. Excellent. It was a lucky day, so we did mine copper, and actually it even worked for the quest that the blacksmith Clint had told us. So that works out well. Tomorrow we have to make sure that we get with Clint, so he can pay us out on that. There wasn't a lot of free time for fishing, but we did use up the free time to finish some of the bundles. That was awesome. So for the most part, really good. The only comment I have, and I don't know, it's not because Av didn't follow the direction or Av you didn't follow the direction, but I felt kind of bad from the standpoint. Usually, when I get parsnips that are gold quality, I'll keep the first five so we can get the quality bundle in the pantry. And as I was looking at it, I felt really bad that I didn't give that direction. But then I realized we're probably better off with that money earlier to get the uh, backpack. And now that we see tomorrow is raining, even to get an upgrade on the watering can, and that'll allow us to water more and make up for that difference in the quality parsnips as well. Parsnips are fairly easy to plant. They turn over nice and quickly. We haven't used any fertilizer yet. There's a reason for that. But once we get past the egg festival, we can put in some fertilizer, and that'll help our chances of getting gold. So I think even though it wouldn't have been what I recommended, I still think it's now the right move. So I don't know, Av, if you thought you were doing the right thing and just kept carried on, or if you had the same reservation I did. I think we're still on the right path. But it's always nice to have those conversations and basically work out what's the best situation. So I want to end it on this. As a viewer, you're probably thinking, Dino, you've done this before. You've taught this before. This should be second nature. This should be the easiest. I do find it second nature. I do find it easy. But every single time I'm going to come into decisions, and that's what helps me learn. I learned every time I do this sort of thing. And you're thinking, well, you're teaching. You shouldn't be able. I'm learning too. So this is actually the way it goes. If you walk into a factory and you feel the production manager have 100% of everything and everything run exactly as clockwork, then you probably haven't been to a real situation, or there's something artificial about it. They're cooking the numbers or something. Stuff happens all the time in production, and it's worth getting smart people together and just saying, what do we think of that? How are we going to respond to that? Is that good? Is that bad? Rather than sort of brush on the table and pretend it never happens. So this is Dino the Ops Guy. End of episode 8. We will see you in episode 9.